ได้
Have the station when you're please.
Welcome to the fun session that everyone's joined just so they don't have to do it at the end of the year for ethical scenarios. Can I just make sure that people can hear me online?
Matthew, is this 6 points?
Loud and clear, Matt.
Six points?
1.5 points we're going to get out of this,
I'll take it.
which is,
And you got one as well.
we'll see
Oh, yeah.
how we go.
Happy days.
So today's more about thinking about ethical scenarios. We've gone through the code of ethics enough times and everything like that. So it's more about, we're going to split into groups. So for the people in the room, they're going to have a scenario between two people and then discuss it between themselves. And I'll have one on a separate one that's up on the screen again. Then so after we've had 5-10 minutes to sort of go through the different scenarios, we'll have each group sort of share. I'll have that scenario up on the screen as well, so you guys can see what we're talking about as well. But yeah, so it's really just a bit of an interactive session, thought-provoking. Different people look at things from different angles, so hopefully it's a little bit of a discussion point. But anyway, I'll flick over for the screen for people online, have a bit of a look at, and then again we'll start sharing and going around the room in 10 or so minutes, 15 minutes, and I've got some more scenarios as well. Yeah, you've all got different.
So are we sharing, are we?
Yeah.
15 years.
We're just on mute because there's a little bit of noise in the room, so.
You completely.
The previous.
Sorry.
Potentially not.
Alrighty.
Rather than just having a discussion.
Well,
Okay.
the key things was of discussion, sorry. And we'll start going around the room and see what everyone's scenarios were. So, and then let them sort of talk about what they sort of discussed. So, scenario one is Jenny and Kath in here, and so their scenario was you're meeting with a young professional client, Sarah, who is looking to take out comprehensive insurance coverage. 2 products on your approved product list could work. Product A has okay features, cheap premiums, and a track record of reliability at claims. Product B has better optional features but higher premiums. It pays a higher commission to advisors based on its higher premiums. Both products technically meet Sarah's needs. Sarah asks you directly, if you were in my shoes, which one would you pick? So what were the sort of ethical dilemmas and discussion points that you guys had?
Well, we just said that, that with the product B, you'd have to go through whether those optional features were relevant to Sarah. And the commission shouldn't even be a feature in your choice.
It's got to be appropriate to the client.
Yeah.
And just
What else we say?
needs basis, affordability. Commission is irrelevant. It's just about the client at the end of the day. Should have been
And,
considered.
affordability. Sometimes people can't afford the best cover.
Yeah.
Some covers better than none.
It's looking at just because there's product A and B, what are the other alternatives as well?
So I guess that's the ethical tensions and everything here. Is it possible to truly give unbiased advice when personal financial incentives are at play? Does disclosure of remuneration alone remove the conflict, or must the advisor actively choose the most cost-effective product? So your thoughts on that?
Cheap is not always better.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure it's like certain products are more transparent than others, can be more user-friendly. Just because something's cheap doesn't mean it's the best thing to go with.
You have to be aware of your own biases and just remember you're putting the client first.
Yeah.
Their best interest first.
Has anybody else got any thoughts online? Reduce the commission on option B and reduce the premiums.
Jenny's first point, does it match the client's goals and objectives? Yeah, the one with the additional features, and if it does, and it's better for them.
Yeah. So without knowing what their pastimes are, whether they are active or in sport or like hiking and might be prone to injuries or something like that, who knows?
I like what Amanda said about like, I guess you could sort of match the commissions.
Yeah.
And that will also reduce the premium. That's a really good option.
Yeah, that's a really good point from the risk specialist. So,
Yeah.
so
Insurance ethics, I'm just got Amanda.
yeah, so
They are muted, yeah, sorry.
no, not everyone. It's really good. So yeah, no, it's all good, and again, it's all part of the discussion as to what options are out there. There's certain things that go through your mind. Is this optional extra worthwhile, or you're going to get an extra couple of bucks? We don't want it to be about the money that you receive. Obviously, in the end, it's all about what the client needs, and I guess what they're going to be best served for. Okay, so option 2, we've got an elderly client, Robert, 82, has been your client for over a decade. Recently widowed, he now wants to invest $200,000 from his inheritance into an unlisted property trust promoted by his neighbour. He insists he understands the risks but struggles to remember details from previous meetings. Robert's adult children express concern. They tell you he has become forgetful and sometimes confused about bills and appointments. They ask to sit in on all future meetings. Robert is uncomfortable with this and insists he is capable of making his own decisions.
Tricky one.
All righty, Ben,
That would have been better.
Ben and Nick.
All righty. Yeah, I'll start. So probably to the first point, how do you respect Robert? All right. So Nick brought up the point, how much money does he have?
No, the fees, how much fees?
No, we're kidding.
You
Okay.
brought him money.
All right, the ethical response. Okay, so quest to get an MCI checkup and then assess in a professional manner. Maybe most times out of 10, there's probably something, that's coming out as an impairment for this particular person if you picked it up or if you think there's something wrong. And then if this is the case, this will forcefully trigger, that health check and family members to attend and potentially, make decisions a bit easier going forward.
And how do you go about asking for a health check or a medical sign off?
It's just like positioning it really, and that's probably where, a bit of we have to position it correctly. So how I've done it in the past is to position and say, look, your family is questioning this. They mean well. So how about we put their doubts aside and you get a health check done? It'll help you because you'll know, and you can give it to them and say, I'm fine. And clients find it empowering. I've never had somebody say, no, I'm not going to do it after that. They usually go, oh, that's a great idea. It empowers them to take some action themselves so they can shut the client family up. 9 out of 10 times it comes back as they come back 3 months later with the family. 9 out of 10 times.
And so that's all about, I guess, respecting Robert's autonomy to be able to make his own decisions as well. Is there anything in this scenario that, I guess, made you concerned over his autonomy to make decisions? Is another thing. So apart from the children raising concerns, would you have had any concerns otherwise?
I was saying to Ben, I think many a times, for me, a key trigger is repetition.
Mm-hmm.
Like the minute, because all the clients in that age bracket, the minute the client starts, telling me the same story in that same half an hour conversation, that's a trigger. That something's NQR. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's the impairment. There could be, it could just be, depression at the point or whatever it is. But that should be our trigger in general. And that's something we've got to look out for. Does that answer your question, Matt?
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is with involving the family members, how do you keep that at an arm's length sort of? This is, again, you're dealing with family members. Which one are you dealing with? Are you dealing with the whole suite of them? That conversation as well to again, make sure that the end client is.
Again, I think we need to judge the motive if they're calling, like if it's a son or daughter who has called you because this client is at least 10 years old you've probably got an indication, you know, what their kids are like and what they do. You'd like to think so after, you know, the parents being a client of yours for 10 years. So if you've got an indication that their family member has called, well, which one? You know, are they the one that's on the right path, or are they the one that's the
One that's been worried about.
There's a fine line.
Regardless of their path, motives, etc., you have a legal obligation not to disclose private information to a third party unless they have a legal document to have access to that information. So I get where you're coming from, but unless you see a power of attorney,
No, I'm saying not.
No, no.
Not.
Yeah,
for
not
us,
to-
not-
okay.
Yeah.
So what, yeah, he's saying we
Sorry,
can't,
just to be clear,
but
yeah,
we've
yeah.
got to be conscious of what their motives are.
yeah,
because
absolutely.
fine line between, you know, hang on, duty of care, I'm caring for you, or I'm abusing you. So
100%.
it's such a fine line. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're saying can't say anything, but we've got to be conscious of what is the motive and try and recognize that a little bit.
Yeah, that's on me.
And then the balance,
Yeah.
I guess the flow on is you're balancing potentially a future client relationship.
Yeah, you are.
So this person's compromised. Are you wanting to build a relationship with the kids? And, you know, this could be an eventual client, you don't know. But are you pleasing them to then, you know, eventually have someone down the track as a client? These are all the ethical
That's another
things that could be going on, and they could already be a client.
Yeah.
So again, it's just thinking about what comes across and, you know, what all of the different implications are. This is all discussion. And I think the discussion is the best part of these sort of scenarios because people look at them very differently.
I remember a few years back, we had, you know, the goalposts moved again, where we actually have to take into consideration not just the clients,
Yeah.
For the broader family.
but the family.
Yeah.
So,
Fine line to question someone's capacity at that age because, you know, they're very stoic.
yes,
They don't want to disclose to their family their wealth.
no,
So I think, you know, that's one part of it. And he's probably got capacity to still deal with his ongoing scenario. But the fact that he's got this 200,000 that he wants to invest, I think, well, let's look at that in more detail and sort of go to the other way, sort of question the investment rather than his capacity. And then
Has anyone had a scenario where they've had to, like, someone lose capacity, a client?
Yeah.
I've had a few, like,
Yeah. Some I know,
including myself.
and I've just. I've also just, my dad's just gone to a geriatrician and had an assessment, and I wasn't at the first assessment. But seeing reports from the first assessment to his assessment now is fascinating, seeing how they do it. So that was quite confronting, but I've also had clients go through it too. Yeah, so really interesting. But the great thing for me is how Nick phrased the communication about the health check. I have written that down because that was so beautifully.
I was going to compliment you on that, Nick.
I love
used that
that.
last week, actually.
Yeah, I will be using this.
67. And he was just with the head of like regional for underground trains, the train network.
Oh, wow.
He retired at 62, and he told me one story. I'm like, oh, great, Jack. And then 2 minutes later, he's telling me the same story again.
Yeah.
I think, oh. And then his son had rung me the day before as well. He's seeing dad. Blah, blah. The son's a client.
Yeah.
But his dad gave him 50 grand. He's like, no, I don't want to take it out. I've got to talk to Nick first, see what we're going to do.
Yeah.
He's that kind of person.
Yeah.
So to some degree, I was thinking, okay, we need to overlay what the kids' intentions are as well. But yeah, when he walked in, repeated the same story 2 minutes later from like, you know, when he was, 10 years ago.
And even I'm now dealing with the daughter who actually was the friend who referred me to her mother in the first place in one scenario. Now I'm dealing with power of attorney who is the daughter. And then that's the whole reason I got the mother as the client in the first place. But it's about the daughter now making the choices that are in line with what I think her mother would want.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part. That doesn't always,
And that's
that
really
client too.
the rules of a power of attorney. You're not making decisions for you. You're making decisions as if you are that person. So we can't be making big changes. And to your point, earlier, it's what is the investment? What did they invest in previously? There's all those sort of things as well. Like, what do they still invest in? So, yeah, there's a lot to sort of unpack there. We've got scenario 3. So scenario 3, we've got you act for married clients, John and Amanda, in a one-on-one review meeting. John admits he has accrued $80,000 in gambling debts and has been hiding this from Amanda. Their retirement savings are being impacted, but John begs you not to tell her. She'll leave me if she finds out. At the same time, Amanda has been asking why their savings aren't growing as expected.
Oh.
She trusts you to guide their joint retirement planning.
Oof.
Paula, Michelle.
No.
I know. Mark and Jessica, sorry.
Let's go with Jess. No, Jessica.
You're in trouble.
Childhood PTSD. No. No, we yeah, we've basically thought that if they're both clients, then we have an equal responsibility to both the husband and the wife together. It's interesting when you drill down to, you know, he's got his account, she's got her account. You release information on each account to the couple, but assuming you've worked them for a long time and they are, other than this, you know, things have been going well, you've got an equal responsibility to both of them. And so we would probably contact John and say that, you know, you need to, we can't keep that as a secret. We have to disclose that to your wife, but you should do that yourself. Otherwise, we're going to set up a meeting with both of you, hopefully, where we can help mediate that discussion. Otherwise, if you won't do that, then we're going to have to tell her ourselves, give him those sort of options, offer to help with that process, to sit through it and somewhat mediate as best you can. And hopefully then help, because in that scenario, I guess you can provide solutions to help them get back on track and maybe make it not quite as, so hopefully they won't have a domestic over it, you know, if you're in there to help. Can you continue to advise both clients in good faith? So assuming that they, I guess, work through it, then yes, you can. If he's not willing to disclose it to her and you're having to get involved, then you kind of have to decide, I guess, who you have like equal responsibility, who you're more responsible to. If he's not being honest and not acting ethically himself, then we still have to. So we would have to either make a decision to advise her or to basically end the relationship if they weren't going to, act ethically towards each other, and therefore us as well, because we have to be careful in that scenario.
We thought the starting point was to give him the opportunity to have the discussion.
I'm clean.
Come clean. And as Jess said, we're happy to mediate that if need be. Probably prefer not to.
That's interesting. You're like, come on,
Jess loves that sort of play, but anyway. But it's up to him to come clean initially, and give him the opportunity to do that. And hopefully he would. And then we can meet with both of them and discuss the path forward. If not, as Jess said, well then, we would need to start talking about whether we can continue to represent him. Certainly him, if he's not willing to be honest with his wife, well, we can't represent him.
And
What else is he lying about?
Well, let's just stick to the fact.
have we considered sort of in this situation, there's been $80,000 spent. How he got access to the 30,000? Was it through withdrawals of investment? Has there been any part that you need to go reflect upon your own position?
Just raised that point, which is a good one. Now, if it is a joint account and we have access to it and we're managing it, and he's continually ringing or withdrawing from it, well, yeah, we do have to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And also, like, technically you would assume you had an advisor managing your account and that amount was coming out without, like you have clients call you, they're taking holidays, they're doing renovations, you've seen them for meetings, they're showing you photos of renovations, it all makes sense, it all lines up. Husband calls you, asks for money for the renovation. That sort of scenario where there's no discussion, it's sort of kept a secret, you're managing those accounts and money's just coming out. Yeah, sure, you should definitely be asking the question before it gets to that point. I would expect that you would pick up on it before it got to that point.
Yeah.
And if it didn't, then you would be having to do some pretty deep self-reflection onto what you missed.
Even at reviews, though, when you're talking at reviews, saying, over this period, you've taken X amount of money out, it would have come out in those conversations.
Yeah.
And I guess it also depends on the size of the asset we're looking at as well.
Exactly.
Is 80,000 consequential or not?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think
from his fund or her fund or joint.
the other things are it might even come down to financial literacy of the two individuals. Someone's looking, oh yeah, we've got a plan. Mark or Jess, they're great. They've put it in. We're going to be making this much money, and then all of a sudden, we're not doing anything like that. They're just checking in why, but they don't have the understandings. And again, maybe that's an advantage that the partner's taking and hidden from there. So it is an interesting situation. I don't know exactly how you deal with it. I'd probably just want to sit in between.
Got the hardest one of all of them so far.
Yeah, you might. You probably had a tough one. But yeah, no, it's certainly
Role though, isn't it? Like in a couple, like to be that mediator. I mean,
You're the unofficial marriage counsellor.
yeah. I think everyone has clients where, if the wife doesn't sometimes the wives manage the money, sometimes they have no interest and no understanding, and sometimes it's the reverse, and you're that person that kind of bridges that gap between them so that they don't have to domestic over it,
Absolutely.
And so you think that again, if they were to continue a relationship, would you be able to serve them confidently without knowing that maybe there is something going on dodgy behind your backs or behind the other person's back? That's again the ethical dilemma.
I think you need to set boundaries around it and say, look, given what has happened going forward, we need to maybe you need to meet with them more frequently. Maybe you need to just, if it's an account you're not seeing, if it's not one we manage, well, we're going to need to actively review this with you on a far more frequent basis than normal to make sure everything's above board.
Also it's gambling. So I'd be inclined to push him to get some help and to have to sort of, I mean, I know we have no right to request proof of that help, but I'd be sort of keeping in touch to make sure that he's addressing that issue for himself and his wife. And also, and I just sell it in the fact that we can't ethically serve you and your wife if you're not able to, manage your own finances. It kind of comes down to his capacity is compromised because he's got a gambling addiction.
Yeah.
An addiction is a compromise, isn't it?
So is he a vulnerable client?
And then, there's another way. Do you have two sign off? Do you require to withdraw money from an account that you've got two signatories and it's both of them signing off?
Yeah, I think that's really.
Sometimes that might clash with your, how much you believe the person or your trust in a person. So trying to mend a relationship. But having said that, it is certainly a tough discussion to have.
I had one where the husband claimed he got prostate cancer and he lied to the wife as well, took all these drawouts. Turned out he was getting scammed by some person on the internet, didn't want to tell the wife.
Jeez.
But today, long story short, but today we don't know even if that was true.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. I've got a positive one where the husband did do crazy things with the business and bought boats and did all these other things, and they've now got almost no money. Then they got an inheritance, and now they're working together and communicating and seeing me together. So we didn't deal with them beforehand. We're only dealing with the inheritance, but they're coming together as a couple, and it's working out really well.
Good. You two have got a quite different client base.
Yeah.
How do I get there?
So anyway.
It is interesting, and I've got a client that came in the other day, and she works for a medical practice, and basically she's just in making sure that all of the shots get taken at the right time for everyone. And so flu season, she works outrageous hours, but it was a member of a couple and then a brother. Were the three doctors, and one of the couple has separated. They've separated, and the three of them had a self-managed super fund, and one of the members of the couple has been taking extraordinary amounts out of the self-managed super fund along the way. Now, this all goes back to, hey, it's a self-managed super fund, so you got trustee discretions and all these issues, but it's not even going to be a family law issue with the separation because you've got a third party involved that actually has nothing to do with the divorce, but they've been defrauded as well. But these are all so she, who's meant to be in charge of the medical practice, is now going through with a forensic accountant to look through transactions and see what has been going on. But again, like these
They
are,
made a condition of release, so they're taking money out.
so they were taking money out for personal construction at home. And, yeah.
That's what happened with the husband and wife. They had a self-managed super fund with the business, with this other couple, and the two men were off doing different things. And so they've now come and they've got nothing, but they're now rebuilding and they're still together and they're talking, which is super nice.
It's a bonus, isn't it?
Rosy world,
Oh, you're like, why is it killing each other?
Inheritance, is it her inheritance?
It's her.
That's why. That's why they're working together.
That's why you're
Well, he's been diagnosed and he's going through medical treatments, etc. So it is about, I guess, looking at their situation, and they've done the whole clean sweep of this is the situation. We're actually recognising it. The whole family's recognising it, and we're not hiding it. Yeah, I've had to have some very delicate meetings though, because I'm not as good as Jess at these things, so I'm learning how to. The wife is amazing how she phrases things. I'm learning from her as well as how to phrase things.
And from you.
And from me.
Yeah. Thank you. That's right. Thank you.
No, he's not allowed to anyway. But no, even his communication, I've been really impressed. Until something goes wrong. Sorry?
What's he not allowed to do?
Access their inheritance. Yeah. So it's effective. It's about trying to rebuild all the money they've lost. And they've also got kids on this. It's a whole situation. So anyway,
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. It's that compulsive spending. And it has come back to a bipolar imbalance and other things.
It's a delicate situation.
It's interesting. Yeah.
That's a well way of putting it. All right. Well, again, really good discussion. Now we're on to Paula and Michelle. So scenario 4, we've got your licensee has entered into a new arrangement with the superannuation platform. They encourage advisors to transition clients to their preferred product, citing streamlined reporting and compliance. One client, Lisa, currently has a super fund with low fees, strong performance, and no issues. The only benefit of switching would be easier administration for your practice. A colleague suggests it's fine, ASIC won't care as long as the product is on your APL.
Well, I think we, Paul and I first probably honed in on what the client thinks the super fund is: low fee, strong performance, and no issues. So I think we kind of just said, well, we have to validate that first in terms of what does the client think is low fees compared to this other provider. In terms of performance, they're only seeing what is being presented to them in terms of advertising, in terms of their performance or their own statement. So is that a good performance against other providers or other models? And in terms of, she may have no issues that Lisa can see. What are the other issues? One, the fund, like if there's an insurance, if there's any claims problems in the background, or any other things that Lisa isn't aware of, I guess, is probably validate that as first. Do you want to chime in with the rest, or are you happy to keep?
I've talked a lot.
Yeah, that's right. And I just think in terms of, the only benefit being an easier administration to the practice, that's not a reason to switch because of the licensee. And it shouldn't put the job risk at security, because you've got to do what's in the best interest of Lisa.
I think also we pointed out that it's all very well for, if she really wants to stay with this fund, and we can honestly look at it and go, yep, absolutely. We don't have industry issues with any insurance payouts. You do have money nominations, all the things that you need and want. So if it is actually true to label as to how she has portrayed the fund, we'll maybe just make her aware, look, it is a different fund. We don't normally use this fund. because there might be a heightened level of administration, we might need to charge you a slightly different fee scale. But we're comfortable with you retaining the funds. And I think Michelle and I both agreed that if the employer wanted to fire us, that would be fine because because it does come back to the client.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's interest.
And I guess the point of exactly what you said, like, is there insurance claims? You know, there's been a lot of news recently about, hey, how long has it been since a death benefit got paid out for some people? You've got people that were struggling with, you know, their partner that was left or their family that was left and they didn't get paid out, or there could be insurance claims and things like that. So the fees themselves and the returns aren't necessarily everything. As we said, cheap is not always better, but
and to the point, sorry to interrupt, but gentleman who was here at the very first session, he was speaking about, you know, the high water lifts all ships, potentially looking forward, active advice, or if this is an inactive fund, for example, it could be a different style of investment management might benefit the client greater looking for in more ways looking forward.
Yeah.
So, and that client might not be aware of that. So I think it is also part of it's incumbent on us to educate the client as to dig deeper into what the client understands as well.
And I think even the more you uncover in these sort of scenarios, it's, you know, they could be in a cheap balanced fund. Is it a balanced fund that's getting the good returns? It might be a growth or closer to your definition of a high growth fund. Are they comfortable with those risks? There's a lot to unpack when we're looking at different super funds, their performance. You look at what do the clients necessarily want in an advice relationship? Do they want you to just give them strategy, or do they want sort of protection in the way that they're invested? You just have to look at your super, your future, or whatever it is, and you've got basically any super fund in Australia that has their own mandated funds, and their Australian sleeve is basically the index. And they can only really get in the top 10, 20 because they're too big now to be able to invest in anything else. So if CBA falls over because it's ridiculous, where's their downside protection when they've got 12% of their Australian shares sleeve in CBA? There's not as much diversification is what I'm sharing with those things. So again, you can sort of unpack this a little bit more as to what is it that they want, and then again flowing through and finding out. I do agree that just because it's easier for administration, that's not the only reason why you should switch them. Your point is correct that if it is going to be a burden or a further burden, and your cost to deliver the same services are higher because of that, that is a reason to be able to charge more. There's no reason why you can't do that. But again, it's about being open and honest about those different things.
Yeah. And even just educating the client, because although Lisa's saying that they are low fees, are they really low fees? This is what you're just hearing. Is it just what your perception is as well? So it's probably about what she knows. It's only what she knows.
Correct.
It's what she's portraying, is what she wants.
That's on the ad.
Yeah, that's why they're believing it.
It was a big banner.
Without it being an industry super fund bashing, but you don't see too many of them with some of the real assets talking about their more recent years. It's more about their long-term performance now, whereas and it's always to a certain point in time that's convenient for them and things like that. So when you're giving real-time reporting, hey, it's to the end of last week or the end of the month or to today, and then they're looking at a TV commercial that could have returns that are 11 months old. It's very different.
39 years, they would have had the fund for 5.
Yeah. So
And they stopped that 39-year ad.
I don't have.
I wonder why.
it's all good discussion points. So thank you for that. We've got Darren and Renee for scenario 5. So David, a long-term client, is applying for income protection. During fact-finding, he discloses a back injury from several years ago. When completing the application, he says, let's just leave that out. It was years ago and it'll only increase my premiums. I'll probably never need a claim anyway. David insists he is being practical and argues that the insurers just make money by ripping people off. He pressures you to support him. Come on, you're on my side, right? What's your position?
Yeah, well, I think we need to go through a bit of a case of him understanding how the claims process works as a start, because if you don't disclose, then it could void the actual entire policy. And obviously the duty to duty of non-disclosure. Hang on, that's not the right term. Yeah, non-disclosure.
Disclosure.
And that, it basically he would be putting something in place that could be completely just a waste of money and time, not only to mention our obligation of the information that,
We've received.
that we've received.
And be better to have coverage for this range of potential illnesses and stuff and have an exclusion for his back rather than not have any
Yes.
coverage, full stop type of thing. So just explain that to him.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
Really.
In terms of, do you refuse outright or risk damaging a long-standing client relationship? I mean, I think you'd go through that education process with him of understanding how it works. And as you said, Darren, let's do a pre-assessment and actually see what the outcome might look like before you make a decision. But certainly would not be party to putting incorrect information on the application form.
And I guess this point, if someone has said this to you, there's many ways for insurance to be applied for. You can put in an application and then they can do all of the medical information through a call or typing it in themselves.
Yep.
Would you feel like you would need to be part of this application, or how would you go about that? Ethically thinking that he could lie anyway.
Well, that's right. So I think you've got to explain what his obligations are. Whenever I do insurance, I get them to complete a pre-assessment, and then I don't ever fill out the personal medical information for them. So I'll either do tele underwriting or get them to complete it or to review it. Yeah.
One of our advisors has got a scenario at the moment where the insurer has refunded the premiums going back for the whole duration of the policy because the insurance company is alleging that the client had a pre-existing issue and didn't disclose it. So they're saying, well, we wouldn't have taken you on had you have disclosed it. So here's all your money back, and we pretend the policy never existed.
And so I guess in this point,
Last we heard there were positive updates on that, weren't there?
Oh, there's litigation going on, so they've decided that they will put pause on it until such time as the litigation is completed.
So I think again to your point here is if they've either filled in a pre-assessment questionnaire or and they have they've said something. If you weren't confident in what they were going to report to the insurer, do you then say, okay, well, my application, I'm now going to charge you for the advice?
Yes. Yeah.
And you take a back seat and don't accept any commissions. Again, this is depending on who you're dealing with. There's ethical sort of obligations that they've got to also undertake, but if you're uncertain as to how they will respond, even through your education, how do you go about it?
Yeah, I like that point, actually. Yeah, to actually charge them a fee for service and not,
There are risks that we don't know. We don't have to get the information, and they can tick that they don't want the information passed on to the advisors. So you don't know what they're going to fill in really on a application form. So does our risk specialist have any thing that they would add here, Amanda, John. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting scenario. How can I talk?
Oh, unmute your thing. Do we have to unmute this?
Not going to hear me say.
You know how to talk.
CJ, can you unmute Amanda, or is it?
I have already applied the unmute for them. They can just click the mic on so that they can talk. Thank you.
Does it work, Amanda? Oh, it's all right. Oh, yeah, I think you might have gone off mute there for a little bit.
No, her microphone's still muted. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
There we
Can
go.
you hear me?
Absolutely. Loud and clear.
My quiet little voice. Sorry, can you ask me the question again?
I just thought if you had any input on the scenario with potential misrepresentation at.
Yeah, look, it's a really difficult one, and as we know with what John's going through, it's always a challenge. But I actually do all the applications myself, just so that it gives me that extra layer of comfort that I'm asking the questions and having discussions around the questions with the client, because you can often pick up when they're hesitating about answering no to some things. And I'll just sort of say, is there something there that, and they'll potentially then go into details. So that's, to me, all I can do. You can't, you don't know a client's medical history. You don't know anything about them really, other than what they're telling you. So, as I say, one of my strategies is to do the applications myself so that I can get a direct level of comfort that the application we're submitting is true and correct as the information that they give us.
It's a great way, I think, of one, understanding your client, and two, being confident in the information you're providing the insurer. Amanda, do you have any pushback ever from clients about disclosing personal information to you? Or again, how do you go about maybe explaining the benefits of you being involved in that application process, although it being, quite personal, but the information would be that they're passing on to you?
Oh, look, I don't even really let them know there's potentially another option, for them to have tele underwriting or, so it's just, I guess, part of the process there. When we send them their, statement of advice, their quotes to sign off on, in there is, we need to make a time to do an application, and I'll often, when I'm speaking to them, have a little joke, are you ready for your interrogation session, and, that sort of thing. So I just sort of, I guess, make a little bit of light of the fact that they're sharing personal information with me. And I've never had any pushback at all. And I also like doing the application because it is a great opportunity to build rapport with clients, especially clients that have got mental health, issues that, and I can have a chat to them about, was they on medication because they went through a divorce, or, what is it, something that's, it's, more sustained condition that they've got. So, yeah, I really value doing the application myself.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's a great way of doing it, and obviously getting to know your client on a deeper level. I mean, as you said, you can sort of laugh it off a little bit. It's not you asking the questions, it's the insurer, and you're just trying to get the best coverage for them. The last thing that they would want is to pay for a policy for 10 years and think that they were covered, and all of a sudden at the point of claims they're not. So
and I guess the other thing I do is I always do them on Zoom. So we're reading the application together. I read through, the disclosures at the front with them and their duty, their duty and responsibility to, disclose everything. So it just almost forms part of the process, and it's, I've never had any pushback.
Thank you for sharing, Amanda. Very good. Very good. Did anyone else have anything else to add?
Do you want to put me on mute again? No, I'm only kidding.
Well, if you want, you can talk about scenario 6.
Just did put you on mute, Amanda.
So we'll jointly all do. I
think that one more thing.
Oh yeah.
On that particular client, and we could look to reject if they just keep pushing and say, you're doing the app with them, and they say, no, don't put that in. Matt, what are you doing putting that in for? I told you not to do it. You'd be like, put on the spot. So,
Yeah, we actually wrote down another suggestion that if they did sort of push too far, well, okay, here's our letter of terminating of our services.
Yeah,
type of thing. So
we don't there and then.
Can't represent them, and particularly if it's against your ethics and moral values.
And probably not make it related. Sorry, make it related to them.
No,
make it related to yourself. And be like,
that's right.
I'm not going to put myself under the bus for you. Sorry.
That's right.
Yeah.
It goes back to the code of ethics somewhere along the way as well. Basically, but not the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way.
I was just going to be silly and say, okay, well, you could pay me the premiums each year, and then I could maybe promise to give you the money if something happened. But there's no guarantee on that because you've got a back issue.
Isn't that how the industry fund?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Hang on a minute.
So true.
So we had this one up for the people online. So, but we might go through it all together here. So we do have a few other scenarios, so anyone can chime in online, but we'll also do it through the room. So scenario 6, you're advising a married couple, Michael and Claire. Michael wants to invest aggressively in shares, believing they need higher returns to fund comfortable retirement. Claire is a risk averse and hears they could lose their nest egg. They request a single statement of advice covering both, saying we need one plan, otherwise we'll argue forever. Have we got any insights as to what we may do with him? What we may do
Start off with the people that are dealing
in this
with,
situation? If anyone online wants to chime in, they're more than
Click on your
welcome to.
Yep.
Don't all rush at once. Trying to see
Answer this one.
No wrong answers. Anyone in the room want to start?
Superannuation is perfect for that.
Superannuation is perfect for it.
Yes,
Nick
'cause
wants
you
you to
can
answer this one.
No, because, he's super going to be more aggressive, first is going to be more conservative.
How do you deal with that if there was re-contributions and you're moving money between the two different accounts?
Do they have the same balances?
If you're dealing with recontributions, the recontribution strategy is separate to the investment strategy. So it's a strategic action versus an investment action. That's how I deal with it.
What about if they had, no, but I mean, from one partner to the other, sorry.
No, I understand that. I understand that. But the fact is that you're doing it, once the money's gone from him to her or her to him, you're giving up access to that money technically. So if they agree that they want to have separate risk profiles, but they want one plan, they have to agree to accept the difference in their super fund alignments.
Understand the
That makes sense.
consequences of moving it from A to B, what's the consequences are.
If it's ordinary money and it's one pool in joint names, potentially, or how do we go about it? Or do we split it down the middle? So here's your password. There's consequences there. There's account fees, duplicating account fees. point out all the bits and pieces.
That'll be the cost of their
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah.
Is our first point to educate maybe?
Yeah.
Or ask, why are you comfortable to go into shares, and
Yeah.
why aren't you comfortable to go into shares? Where did you hear that you'll lose your money from? I think
Yeah.
a lot of people probably hear, oh, I lost money on shares. What did you lose? What did that person lose their money on? Oh, they said they invested in something. Well, what was it? Was it a speculative stock that was either going to go to the moon or go to zero? Were they in a single investment, or did they have a suite of different shares?
And did they really lose the money? People like to say, oh, I lost all my money, but did they lose maybe
Yeah.
5-10%? And
And sometimes.
And then did they withdraw their
When it was
So there's a lot. I think the first point of this one might be potentially an education piece.
I think I was going to say to your point earlier was if they had the same super balance, you could run that education piece and say, look, in 5 years' time, this higher risk profile had this much compared to the lower. Again, depending on their, the retirement based on your projections and stuff like that. Say, all right, in 10 years' time, say, look, would you be happy if your balance was this and your balance was that based on, average returns,
Yeah.
so to speak? You're like, oh, well, hang on a minute, why do you have more?
Yeah.
or yours is going to last longer than
Yeah,
mine will.
yeah,
I think, I guess it comes like one of her main points was it goes back to her nest egg. And then you're going, oh, well, what do you need in a nest egg?
Yeah.
What is it that you need to live on? A lot of our job really is probably giving them a recommendation of the amount of risk that they should take.
And also education about life expectancy.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realise how long they're going to live for potentially as well.
They could be 50 years old and need the money for the next 50 years.
Mm.
So you put everything in cash, we know what's going to happen. There's got to be a sweet spot.
I think education is the
Yeah,
key thing, isn't it? Like it's
Yeah.
a lot of people go, oh, I don't know anything about shares. Okay, where do you bank? Where do you shop?
Yeah.
What sort of TV have you got at home?
I
Like,
don't own shares. What's your super invested in?
I love that one. I don't know.
I had a client in this scenario. They received an inheritance that was via a testamentary trust. There was about 600,000 or 700,000 in it, and he wanted to take no risk. They had no debt, and they paid out the debt from part of the inheritance as well. And he didn't want to invest in anything, and she wanted to. It actually came through her family, and she wanted to invest in a share portfolio. It took them about 18 months to invest.
Wow.
And they're still slowly investing, but she would have invested on day one.
And
Building confidence.
Yeah.
what was his reasoning for?
He just thinks the world's going to end. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I had a pessimistic client come in, probably in the last couple of weeks as well, and she said, like we were just discussing strategies, and she sort of found herself in a pickle where she's bought a block of land. She didn't really want to go through with the purchase because it was a new estate. She couldn't on-sell it, and she's ended up having to settle. She doesn't know whether to construct there or sell the land. She's living in an apartment. She's got a bit of cash. Her mum has also passed away, so there's an inheritance that's going to come. But just fleshing through the different ideas for her, and I was talking about, you've got superannuation as a vehicle. You don't actually use your super, like it's sitting here over at MLC. Why don't you have like some of your savings in there? She's like, why do you financial advisors like super? I said, what do you mean? She's like, why do you like it? And I'm like, well, it's just an investment place where we can have tax effective investments. And so her idea was, well, if the world's going to end or there's going to be wars and things like that, the government's going to come after everyone's super.
Yeah.
And I said, they could come after your property. They could come after the money in your bank. They could come, unless you're going to take the money out and put the cash under your mattress. Having said that, people in India did that, and then all of a sudden, if you didn't put the money back in the bank, it was worth nothing. So people are a bit pessimistic, I guess, on the end of the world scenarios. How do you deal with that?
Few of them have said that, like, oh, if the shares collapse, oh, it's the end of the world. Like, oh, well, probably not going to be looking at my super anyway.
No.
So if it all goes to zero, you're not worried about what your super is. There's going to be other things to worry about. But, yeah.
And now we've got the graph from earlier, that's if you invest at the high, you get more money.
Yeah. Well, there's always a new high, isn't there? I guess that's the other thing. But yeah, no, I think in this scenario we're certainly talking about education at that point if they don't agree on these different things. Is it even worth servicing these clients? If you can't get on, that's the sort of ethical dilemma I think that we sort of get to, is if we can't agree on a path to take together, whether it's blending a bit more of a conservative portfolio with a higher growth portfolio, so that we're evening out in like a balanced or a growth, so that we're achieving what we want if we look at the totality of the money. But again, like if that might be the superannuation piece, that we've got this money separate, but together it pooled, it's looking all right. You look at your balance.
I mean, to me, that's still another education piece.
Yeah.
What the client doesn't understand is that, we all have a product. It's called advice.
Mm.
That's the product, advice. Just like when they go to the doctor, the product is advice. I don't have to take the tablets. I don't have to take that script to the chemist. But I was given advice. It's the same with the accountant, lawyer, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, there's still an education piece for a person like that. And if I fail at the end of that conversation, then maybe we're not meant to be together. So,
and that's the thing, is that as I go back to, I think one of our biggest jobs is assessing the risk that they can take or are willing to take versus what they need to take.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's sometimes they could have all the money in the world. They might say, "Oh, I want to risk it and go into the share market, but I only need $50,000 a year to live." Well, do you need it?
Yeah.
What if it drops? Do you want the money to keep growing? Like it could drop more aggressively. They're all the things that we saw.
And typically, it's usually the people with a lower sort of asset base, isn't it, that have got high income expectations, but they only want to take this level of risk. So there's that whole conversation about, well, if this is what you think you need, then we have to adjust that risk profile, And again, that's the advice, isn't it? That's the advice piece.
They don't have to take it.
We'll continue on in a group setting. So
Caroline's hoping to get here very soon. She was stuck in a Friday afternoon meeting, she tells, but hopefully here soon.
scenario 7, so well prepared. Margaret, 70, has asked you to review her estate planning. She wants her assets to be split equally between her 3 children. One child, James, approaches you privately and asks that you help the mother restructure her investments so that he receives a larger share. He argues that he has sacrificed the most for the family and deserves more.
Sincerely doubt that.
Margaret has not requested any changes and is unaware of James's approach. How do we go?
We don't like James.
We don't like James. What if James is a client or the power of attorney?
And we like James? No.
We don't know. We don't necessarily have to like him. What if he's the power of attorney for
We need
Margaret?
to remind him
What his obligations are.
obligations are.
Advice.
Mum would have wanted me to have more, I'm sure.
Would you disclose what he's asked for to Margaret?
Do we ever advise a client on their we do on their estate planning, but not as to where they want it to go, like, that they need an estate plan, blah, blah, blah.
They might.
Just don't even tell them, they just take instructions.
Yeah. I mean, there could be an investment bond that maybe was to go to him, or it could have been.
That's advice about her estate planning, isn't it? Like, still, I guess.
an annuity that has a beneficiary on it. Would you disclose it to Margaret? Like, how would you go about?
Yeah.
How would you go about
I
that
think- I
conversation?
think yes, but maybe in a delicate manner and sort of play dumb and say, oh, James is saying that you're thinking of changing your will. Was that true? Or
Nicely worded.
Um,
I like that.
yeah, is that true? Oh no, what are you talking about? Oh, he brought up that it was maybe going to be split differently, and then from that point onwards, maybe not try and not give away too much and try and get the if the other
Or
person
maybe-
ask the questions.
Or maybe not mention James, maybe say, were you, yeah, but maybe
Yeah.
instead of James, maybe were you thinking of changing your estate planning needs or how you got
Are
to
you
this
thinking,
split?
are you thinking?
Yeah,
of
are you
changing
thinking,
or-
yeah.
I see the lawyer.
Yeah.
And what would you do if maybe Margaret then came to you not long after saying that she wants to change her beneficiaries?
Ask her what her thinking was behind that and what were the reasons.
Would you help? Would you include other family members at this point in time? Without, yeah,
You don't have, you've got to look after her. You can't go disclose
Yeah.
her.
It's got to be on
You have-
capacity. Very
yeah.
capacity.
Has her capacity declined?
Scenario that I had questioned that capacity.
How would you approach it?
How Nick did.
Yeah.
I've got it written down.
What is it?
Hang on, let me just log back in. It was really good. And I highlighted it in yellow. Your family is questioning this. They mean well. How about we get this check done to put their concerns aside? That's paraphrasing.
It's an interesting one because if no one's raised concerns of capacity, however, then you may feel that there's duress. Is there
It's yours.
certain regulators or bodies that you would talk to? It's a bit of a tough one. Is it police? Is it elder abuse?
Well, I had a client a number of years ago who did go into aged care as well. She's quite young, but then she came out of aged care.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was only about 70. She thought she was going, but she came out. And her son, it was her only child. I think she used to give him a fair bit of money. And I was talking about how much money she had and how this had to last for yourself and so forth. And there was a point where she had to have a power of attorney put in place. And Trent, or solicitor, he wouldn't actually draft the documents because we were both there and we just were hearing what he was saying and how he was wanting to get money for this and that. But it was mum's money. So we're explaining he has a fiduciary obligation to look after mum if you want power of attorney. So we wouldn't allow him to be the power of attorney, but then he just went elsewhere. So she no longer was my client. And then I believe she went elsewhere to get a power of attorney done. So you can only stop it to a point.
Yeah, yes. You can't, yeah.
And that's probably the tough point is that then do you have an obligation to maybe report it to police?
Is it only police? Like we have, I mean, what else can we do?
I think there's an elder abuse
There is-
specialty hotline or that you can look
I don't
at.
think the police will do
But
much
there's
about it
nothing-
unless it's
there's-
causing.
Yeah, there's nothing specific from a steps perspective
No.
that we can do, is there?
I think the elder abuse
That's a hot
is and they make their own inquiries and then they'll investigate
Yeah.
it themselves. But I think going to the police unless they're causing harm to themselves, or there's a real concern, they're not going to.
She also loves her son and wanted to do, look after him and
It's on the surface, it's a silly one because you go, oh yeah, you're an idiot. We're not going to do that. But then on the flip side, what's going on behind the scenes? And then does mum have any pressures at home, or then she might want to make a change of her mind, whether it's then or whether it's in a few years' time. What caused that? Do you have your doubts about the pressures that were maybe put on? She might make her own mind up, but you don't necessarily know whether she has or hasn't. Again, it's an interesting, again, ethics is, it's all up in the air really. Like there's not definitive answers necessarily.
I mean, you would see with dealing with the aged care space, the kids' motivations for taking the pathway or the advice that's most appropriate to mum or dad, they don't want to go down that path. They want to go down a different path because they're more concerned about their inheritance. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
I think a lot of it comes from when they sell their family home to go into care because properties are worth so much money now. So there's all this cash that's waiting for people to get their hands on.
Mum
But it's
doesn't
not-
need this.
Mum doesn't need it.
So she would
It's
want
not
me
your
to have
money.
it
She
early
would want me to have
inheritance.
it early from all hands. That's what they've done.
We've had a couple of scenarios now where people have been in aged care and the powers of attorney have helped themselves to the bank accounts, and it's been reported to the police. And the police have actually taken charge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, put charges because it's stealing.
Yeah.
Because when you are a power of attorney, you're a trustee.
Yeah.
Now you've got to act in the client's best interests, or the attorney's best interests. So in one case, it was the sister of a very like she became basically a quadriplegic and unable to move, like non-compos mentis type thing. Her sister, who was put in place through a very old power of attorney and will, like the lady concerned has now adult children, a son and a daughter, and in the end, I told them what was going on, and they went to the police. They went and got legal advice, and they went to the police, and they had to basically disclose what their aunt had done, and the police ended up charging the aunt every time she accessed the bank account. That was a separate charge. There's another case going on right now whereby the wife has effectively been helping herself to her husband's mother's money. And like the mother has been in aged care up until recently. She's passed away, and she was the wife was helping herself to the bank account because the only money that was left was the RAD money. So again, the police have applied charges, and it's based on
These are your clients of yours, or just
associated with the aged care facilities that we've been involved with. So they're not our clients, but when in the first case where the daughter and son were coming and saying, look, we're worried about mum's money, we think something's going on. Well, we also had concerns because the invoices weren't up to date for the mother's care. So
on the second scenario, once the guy found out that his wife the wife was power of attorney of the mum because of his mum because he wasn't very financially literate and didn't have too much of an understanding. And when he found out that all of the money was gone, obviously it led to a relationship breakdown. And now they've sold their home, but because of the resulting of her stealing from his mother, she has to basically pay her whole half of the house back into him, but it still doesn't cover
what she's stolen.
What's she done with it all?
Well, that's right.
What is it now? To press the buttons.
So, and yeah, he's I think on the DSP, so he's again a vulnerable person, and has been for a long time. Well, there was another one that I was thinking of where it was a sad situation.
I had a client who bought into a property with her son and his wife, which I never would have suggested or recommended because they just don't get on. I'm not sure I've told you guys this already, but I have, sorry. But the property was meant to be, she paid half of the property's price. And then I saw the contract and she owned a third of the property. It was joint owners. And I made her aware of that.
tenants.
Not tenants in common. I made her aware of that. And all the lawyers sort of got involved, but now they've realised they can't live together, and the son has agreed to pay her back half of the property value. So
Mm.
the appreciated value less the costs, and I'm not even going to talk about all the other stuff that's happened that I've just gone. It's just, it's not good.
Yeah, I've had another, like a new client in the past year or so, and he came to us and he was out of work because of health issues. He was living in the caravan out the front of his house because his wife didn't want him in the house, and basically they were effectively separated. He couldn't get warm water. He couldn't get proper meals. She was working part-time, so his previous advisor had advised that he should try and apply for like a job seeker payment, but because she was working a little bit, it was a reduced income. He was drawing down on his super, which went into a joint account. He didn't know how to bank online or do anything, and she used it to pay basically all of the bills. He was left with about $100 a week, I think.
Oh my
Or
God.
$100 a fortnight to live. And so, yeah, like the first thing we did was we sort of looked at everything and we said, well, you probably could get the DSP. So we said, okay, let's apply for the DSP. He got that. I said, go down and open up a new bank account. Let's have that directed into your bank account. Now let's talk about trying to be separated under the same house because you don't have any access to money. Let's set up so that you put an automatic payment on to help pay for the bills because that's what you want to do, but you're basically don't have access to any of your money. And he came in like just a few weeks ago and he said, my life is so much better. And he was, I think, 30 kilos lighter than what he was, vibrant. And he was like, oh, my life is so much better. But he didn't feel like he had any sort of point in living like a year ago. And he was like, you hear all these stories about financial abuse. It happens to men too. And he's like, he was just sitting in the caravan, cold through winter, in Lilydale, and he's like, it's -4 degrees some mornings. So
And he owns half that house.
he owns half the house. Or she didn't work until he was kicked out of the house. So basically, I think he paid the house off maybe even before the relationship started.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so,
Bitch.
but, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah. There's still a lot for him to sort of go through.
He needs
but-
the energy.
Oh,
for
yeah.
that, yeah.
So, but he's an interesting person. I'll wrap up here. We've all got 90 minutes or 1.5 points of ethics for that. So thank you again for the attendance today. I've got another 5 scenarios that we can tick off next PD day. I'll have to come up with some more, but thank you again for your attendance in person and online. And thank you to Pinnacle for hosting us in person. It's been great. Beautiful boardroom and beautiful office space. So I'm sure we'll be back at some point.
Yeah. Yes, please. Always happy to have you.
Thank you.
Reach out to Olivia if you've got any questions about any of the suite of Pinnacle products. Obviously, there's a lot there. So, please do.
And hopefully if Caroline will be here shortly, so if you've got a minute to stick around, just say hello, goodbye.
Goodbye, have a drink. And,
that'd be great.
send her off. Thank you. Thanks online. Have a good weekend.
There you go.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.